So now here today we have an EC2 instance. That instance is not managed by a Terraform. That instance, like here we have one EC2 instance. That EC2 instance, this EC2 instance, I'll give the name also for this. Is this is the name or EC2 test?
No, I think Terraform. EC2 instant I created
Terraform.
as.
Okay. So Terraform is our instance. We will import that resource. We'll try to import that resource. And meanwhile, what I want is I want that credentials also. And what we required is we need AWS CLI also.
That install.
Now that CLI has been installed.
AWS configure.
If I don't want to configure this, one solution we have is we can export those credentials also.
Yes, yes.
Or another solution is we can give the IAM role also we can give. To the
Have you
role we are
deleted?
going,
No, access key you deleted. You created new one or what?
yeah, two we can create.
Oh, okay. Because I'm using the.
Simultaneously, yeah. So two we can create. If another one want to create, then any of those need to be deleted. Now default region, anything is fine.
I think EU or North one. This one.
Yeah, that is fine. But this is from CLI wise we are giving.
Okay.
From the Terraform wise, that's no issues.
Oh,
Okay, then mkdir, I'll create a Terraform. So now here, what we need to do is we need to import that resource. In order to import that resource, we need to know that like instance ID we need to know. Okay, so Terraform instance ID we need to know. So this is the instance ID. Okay, so then what is the command is Terraform import AWS underscore instance. Okay, so for this I need to give a name. Okay, so normally what we have given in the app server, something we have given, right? Okay, so then here what we need to do, we need to give one name. Okay, so maybe like this name as of now, like we don't have. We need to give the from the Terraform wise, we are going to give one name for that. Okay, so then I'll give maybe my Terraform. Okay, what is that? What is this? My Terraform is what is that? My Terraform.
I think we can say that resource ID.
Yeah, that
Resource.
is no, no, that is
Hello.
this is the name we are giving from our perspective. Okay, then I'm going to give one that instance ID also. But here we'll get one problem. What is that problem is here we don't have no Terraform configurations, no providers, we don't have anything. Okay, so now for that what I'll do is I'll create one resource block. Okay, so then I'm going to keep one main.tf. I'm going to create one main.tf. In this, what I'm going to use is I'm going to keep the resource block, but dummy resource block I'm going to keep. As of now, here I given the name as app server, but instead of this app server, I'm going to keep my Terraform, and I'm not adding any values here. I'm not adding any values. Okay, just I'm keeping one block in that. Okay, I'm not adding anything. What is the name I have given this? My
Right.
Terraform. My Terraform. Okay. So then I close this also. So now I'm in the same directory. I'm going to do the Terraform init, because that if we want to import that resource also, it need to authenticate Terraform and it need the provider. That is the reason it didn't work. Now again I'll try to import. Okay, say AWS underscore instance, my Terraform, and that ID I have given. So here one problem we have is I'm suspecting the region.
Reason. US next one.
Region is in the US West 2, it is searching. Okay, as of now we are in EU,
EU North one.
EU North 1, because we are in the Stockholm. Again, I'm trying to import that. So now that has been imported. Now here I'll do ls. Now to which file it is imported? Terraform dot tf state. Terraform dot now if I do Terraform show, okay, so it is showing all this like that all the resource details it has been able to retrieve that. Okay, so it's what is the AMI? Okay, all those details it is able to retrieve. So this is the AMI ID. Okay, so these all what we can do is in that existing from the Terraform show we can get it right. That existing one we can add it also. What is the key pair? Tag name is Terraform we have. So key name is
Terraform only.
Terraform. Okay, say in that existing file, better to update all these details. Better to update all these details. This AMI instance type is, what is the instance type?
T2
I think
micro.
T3 micro. In Stockholm, we are getting a T3 micro.
T3 micro here.
The instance type is T3 dot micro, and name we have given from this is, this all from where we'll get is from the state file we can get that Terraform. So these all now I'm going to keep in my main.tf. As of now, I have this resource block. So these kind of alignments also. Maybe you can try with FMT for this.
Terraform FMTs
Yeah,
are
FMT will align all this. Then again do the Terraform plan. No changes as per this. Like this here, we need to import the resources. So we need to import the resources. We may have one VPC, right? If I go to my AWS, I'll search for VPC and subnet, all those also we'll have. Now try to import this VPC to Terraform. As of now, we have only one VPC. If I want to import this VPC, I want that VPC ID. I want this VPC ID. Then can you tell me the command Terraform import, Terraform import
good instance.
AWS underscore VPC that.
Okay, VPC.
AWS underscore VPC dot, I'll give the name as my VPC. That ID I'm going to give that. I'm going to give that ID. So for this, it is telling it, we need to create this resource block. My VPC, this resource block you need to keep in my main.tf. The resource, as of now, dummy details I'm keeping. Once I import that, okay. Otherwise, if you know that ID, you can keep that. Now I'm importing that resource. Okay, so import is successful. The Terraform show. So here we have this VPC. But here one problem is VPC will have a lot of dependencies, right? What are those? So VPC will have a lot of
Yeah,
dependencies, like maybe subnets, otherwise security. Those all not, I think it's not all imported. It's only that VPC only is got created. Okay. And what is the CIDR range is 172.31.0.0/16. Okay. So subnets, if you want to use all those also, we need to import those, all the resources also we need to import. Okay. So if any of the new resources out of Terraform have been created, okay, so we need to import those resources. Say in this scenario itself, we have one more important feature is there, that is called as data source. Okay, so maybe we'll discuss data source also. So what is the difference between refresh and import? What is the difference between refresh and import?
we modified the modify file. Then if you refresh, then it will update that the modify file into the main file.
Yeah, if any modifications have been done on the resource and that resource is existing in the state file, then we are going to get the
Get into the state.
then we are going to get the like a refresh. But import is when we need to use.
When is state file is not existing and we need to move to the from main file to state file, then we used to use import.
Yeah. So now here we have one more use case, very, very important. Okay. So that is called as data source. What it is? Data source. So now when we when we have the provider is going to give the blocks for, like here it is going to give all the resources blocks and data sources, okay, have been provided. So what is that? Resource is straightforward. Which resources you want to create on Terraform? Those we are going to use resource block. Okay. So then we need to understand what exactly data source. So what exactly the data source also we need to understand. What is the concept of the data source is, I have already one VPC. Okay. Say in the previous like thing, what we have done is we have imported that resource. We have imported that resource. But in my thing, that VPC is managed by other team. Okay, so that means not in our Terraform. That means s- uh, like our company is not accepting to import that resource. Our company is not accepting to import that resource. But what I want to use is, I want to use, okay, I want to use that resource, that VPC I want to use. So that means that VPC is not in our Terraform. Okay. If I create a resource block, what is going to happen? If I create a resource block, what is going to happen? So we have already one VPC. Try to understand here. We have already one VPC. So now here I'll create one VPC. So I'll call this as Terraform VPC. And I'm going to give the CIDR block is 24. I've created that VPC. So in this, I have created one subnet also. So we have the Terraform VPC. My Terraform subnet. Last 24 I have given. Have created one subnet. Now, like if I import this resource, I need to manage, but someone are already using this VPC. Okay, someone is already using this VPC, but what I want to use is, I don't want to use this VPC, but still I want to create one resource. Then for this, what I need to do is, I need to use the data source. Okay, so I need to use the data source because this VPC is not in my Terraform. My Terraform doesn't know about this VPC. Okay, so but I don't want to import also because that's managed by other team. Okay, so then what is the solution for us? But still, I want to create one instance on this VPC. Okay, then what is the solution we have? What is the solution we have? We need to use this VPC. If I create as a resource block, what is going to happen with that? In my Terraform, if I create as a resource block, what is going to happen? If I use the resource block in my Terraform, what is going to happen?
I mean, it will create
It will create a new,
new VPC.
yeah. So, but what is the requirement?
We need to use the VPC command.
Yeah, so we need to use the existing VPC, but to import also they're not giving because someone is already created that. In others state file, it is already there. Okay, then in that scenario, what we need to do is we need to use that data sources we need to use. So we need to use the data source we need to use. Okay, so how to use the data source? Okay, so what I'm trying to do is now is I don't use that as the resource blocker. If I use the resource block, what is going to happen? If I use the resource block, what is going to happen?
A VPC will be created.
A VPC is going to be created, but I don't want a new VPC need to be created. Okay, so in that scenario, I'm going to use the data source block. Okay,
So in the scenario, we can refer right to the data
yeah,
by creating
data
a
is the
variable.
keyword name.
Yeah, that means we can create a variable and we can refer to there.
No, no, not the variable. In the main.tf itself, instead of using a resource block, we are going to use data source block for AWS VPC and our subnet IDs. Okay, so that IDs we need to specify. Okay, so now here if I go for the Terraform like AWS provider documentation, Terraform AWS provider documentation, if you go, in the Terraform registry, for each and every resource, okay, they're going to give like data sources, okay, and even they're giving the code for how to create the resources. What provider is doing is, provider is providing all these itself for us. Okay, then if I go for the VPC, here, these all, the code is for resource block. Okay, so now I want to create a VPC, then I can go to this documentation, then here I can use this block. Okay, so with the tag I can use, but if I use this one in my scenario, what is going to happen is already that resource is existing, and that's I don't want to create again a new one. Then I shouldn't use from this documentation a resource block. I don't want to use. Okay, in this use case, what I want to use is data source block. Then even for the data source also, how to use? For each and every resource, this documentation is available for us. Then here we need to use this AWS VPC. In this, we are using the code of data source. Okay, so we are using a data source. So now in this, like in this example, what is the data they have used is? What is the data they have used? So this I'll try to use, try to understand now. Now here in this data VPC name, I'm going to give any of my new name, and ID I'm going to use that VPC ID. I can keep that hard coded one. So what is the ID we got is, if I go to this VPC, this Terraform VPC we have, this VPC ID I'm going to get that. Okay. So then I'm going to create a new subnet. I'm going to create. That means already VPC is there, but I want to create a new. I want to create a new
Subnet.
subnet. Then what is the VPC ID? What is the
VPC
VPC ID?
is
Then
same.
data dot AWS underscore VPC dot my new Terraform dot ID. I'm going to give that. I'm not going to use. Okay. So that ID I'm indirectly passing, but instead of resource block, I'm using data block. Then what
So,
is the reason? Yeah,
for example, if you already there is one existing VPC,
yeah,
and that existing VPC CIDR, for example, is 10.0.0.0/16.
yeah.
The existing, okay, and then what we are creating a new
No,
subnet
no. This
because
already
this
resource is already existing, right?
yeah, the resource is already existing, but the subnet which you are creating in the
Yeah, in that
CIDR
we,
or
I'm. That is the reason here I'm not keeping data block, right?
yeah,
What I'm keeping here resource block.
okay,
So here I'm keeping the
resource block.
resource block. But from this, this is on that VPC. It is going to create a on that VPC. It is going to create a
Subnet.
subnet. That is the reason for VPC what I'm using. For the VPC I'm
You mean to say
using
that, I mean, you mean to say that already we are using the existing VPC and we are
existing
just
VPC. In that I'm going to create a new
subnet, as attaching the new subnet to the
subnet
created
I'm
VPC.
attaching.
Okay.
Okay, in that use case, what we are doing? We are using the data source block for that VPC. I'm using the data source block. And available zone, I may
So
use
here, so here we are creating a subnet in the same network.
same network.
Okay. Okay. So I got it.
So I may use north, it's 1A, right? U north,
Yes, you not one.
yeah, 1. Then
One.
previously I think we used 1A. Now I'm going to give here 1B. Okay, so these they have used some function, but what I'll do is I'll create a new CIDR block 10 dot 10 dot 4.0 slash 24 I'm going to give. I hope you understood, right? Why we need to use here data block and why we are using here resource block.
Yes, sir, we got it.
Then try to understand now. I'm going to keep these also in my main.tf. So here I went to main.tf. Then in this, what I want to do is I want to add that resource block also. So my VPC is already there, but I think we didn't give the my VPC. My new Terraform we are going to give. Now, what is the expectation in that existing VPC itself? In the existing VPC itself, we need to create a new subnet. It need to create. I think I lost the connection.
Yes, yes.
So here data that block has been added and subnet also has been added. So now I'll do the Terraform plan. So what is the Terraform plan is it shouldn't create the VPC. One is only is getting added. What is that? One resource is going to add, right? What is that resource?
Subnet.
Subnet. Okay. So then try to understand here. I'll do the Terraform apply.
We are not giving any tag name, right? So whether it is public and private, just we are
Yeah,
creating.
just we are creating. We can give all those details also. One second. What is the VPC range we have? Oh, I have given 10 dot. Sorry, I've given for VPC only. I have given 10 dot 10 dot.
10.10.4.0.
No, no. For VPC only, we given slash 24. We didn't give slash
16.
16. We didn't give.
Actually,
What?
we saw that like maybe I thought like we can try different way. Something.
No, no. I'll add a new cider block. Ten dot. I'll add 10 dot 20 dot. So to the VPC, I'm adding 10 dot 20. Then in my Terraform, what I'll do is
0 dot
Yeah,
4
10
dot.
dot 20 dot 4 dot.
Even whatever before, it is also fine, right? 10 dot 10 dot
No, already
4.
we created one subnet in the GUI, right?
Oh,
That
okay,
already
sure.
used that. Now I'm going to do Terraform apply.
Sir, when we put output in the Terraform files,
Yes, yes, we
that will
can
be shown
create a
after.
outputs.tf file.
Yeah. That will be shown when we run plan, or that will be shown
No,
to
no,
us
with the plan it
when we,
won't create, right? Output won't create
so after applying.
after apply only. Okay, so now here one resource added. I'll confirm it from now 10 dot 20 dot 4.0 slash 24. This subnet has been created. We didn't give the tags right there, right? That is the reason we didn't get the tag. Now, what is my problem is my manager said again, don't use that resource. He is telling to use this subnet. Okay, here we have this subnet ID, right? What is that subnet ID?
80954.
Yeah, in
And
this subnet, we want to create a resource, EC2 instance. Okay, for that, for this subnet, what we need to do?
let us this submit to the VPC.
First, we have to make the subnet as a public, and then we have to
No,
create the
no,
EC2
I'm
file.
not talking about the subnet is public or not. So this subnet is already existing, but not in our Terraform. But in this subnet, we want to create an EC2 instance. Then what we need
We
to
have to
do?
import data by
No,
using
no.
data
Yeah,
source
using the
data.
data source. I need to use
Yeah.
the data source. For that, I'll go for this documentation. If I go for the subnet, okay, so now here the data source block ID, I'll get that. Okay, so now here, what is that data source is? Data AWS underscore subnet. Okay, then that ID, instead of using that variable, what I'm trying to do is, I'll copy that ID. Okay, so this resource is managed by us, but this resource is managed by out of our Terraform. Okay, so I'm going to give here my Terraform and that ID, that subnet ID, I'm going to copy. I'm going
Name
to
we can
copy.
do anything, right? So it doesn't matter.
Name
Might have,
we can give any name, but it
yeah,
shouldn't be duplicate.
yes.
Okay, so then this subnet, I'm going to get that. Now I'm adding this also to my main.tf file.
Again, the resource to open for subnet.
No, no, it's not a resource. It's a data source block. Okay, so then when I want to create a resource, now using this data subnet, I want to create a resource. Okay, so what is that meaning is, using this in this subnet, I want to keep my EC2 instance. Then here again comes to this documentation. I need to use data source or instance.
Instance you have to use.
Yeah, no, resource block or
Resource block you have to use.
resource block I need to use. So suppose here I'll go for EC2 instance. So from this, I'll copy this code. Okay, so resource is this resource and instance underscore type. So AMI, I'll change that AMI anyhow.
Sir, we are creating this resource under that subnet.
Under that
So
subnet.
yeah, then EC2 instance will take IP itself, or we have to specify there.
From that subnet ID, it will take, but it won't get the public IP in this use case.
Okay.
So now here, this is the subnet ID. Okay, subnet underscore ID I need to use. Say, suppose here in the subnet underscore ID, what I'm trying to use is data, data dot AWS underscore subnet
dot
dot
my Terraform
my Terraform
dot
dot ID.
dot ID.
Dot ID I need to use this. Okay, then already we have that instance ID, right? I'll get it from that. Same instance ID I'm trying to copy. Okay, so instead of t2.micro, I'm going to give t3.micro. So then what is this expectation is? It need to create in this subnet, it need to create that. I'll check that. Okay, then I'm going to copy this one. Okay, so web is anyhow, previously we don't have web because we have a resource already AWS underscore instance that is my Terraform. But here I'm going to give the name as web.
Here we are creating instance and assigning the existing subnet, right?
Existing subnet that is not managed by our Terraform.
Okay, not mentioned.
That is the reason we are going to use that as data source.
Data source. Before we used it, already existing VPC, we are
Existing VPC and created a subnet.
subnet.
That VPC we used as data source. Okay, so now here I'm going to use Terraform apply. That AMI. Now for the AMI also we have data source is the solution. I'll explain that also. Instead of copying like this, okay, so we have one solution from the AMI wise also. I think that is not completely copied.
Maybe we need to remove the semicolons.
Which one? Yeah.
I think we use in between that it feels that it's a variable.
That double quotes.
Yeah, double quotes we need to remove. It feels that it's a variable.
Yeah. If it is a hard-coded value, then we need to.
ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ನಿಮ್ದು हमारा सिस्टम में रहते ऑलरेडी थ्रू डाटा डिक्लेरेशन वेली रखे कर लो वो वेरिएबल को तो वो का ना हॉट कोडेड वैल्यू से चेक कर लेता एग्जैक्ट वर्ड हॉट कोडेड इन गोस करेक्ट हॉट कोडेड वैल्यू
So now the resource has been added. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll go and check in that EC2 instance also. So now here, hello world, this instance is, and in that subnet, what we have given in that VPC, we don't need to give because we're given the subnet, right? So this is the subnet ID. Okay, so to that, it's created. So it would be in the 10.10 series. No. This is the subnet ID we copied. Zero 54.
hello వచ్చేసారా
Yeah,
అక్కడికి
that 054 itself, but I think we have wrongly chosen the subnet, but to that subnet itself, it has been
కనుక్కోవాలి కదా మీరు
attached.
వెంటనే కదా కావ్య
Okay.
కడితే కదా
So then we have one more use case.
रियाज भाई माइक बंद करो.
Okay, so we have one more use case why we need to use the data source. I'll explain that also. So now here, if you go for this documentation for this AWS instance, okay, so now here we are using data block. I'll copy this. This try to understand. This is another use case why we'll use data block. So now here, what we are passing here is, I'm passing that data block AMI is data.aws underscore AMI dot Ubuntu ID. So previously I struggled, right? I need to copy that AMI ID, all those. But now I'm using this data source block. Okay, so that means Ubuntu and filter name I'm giving is, okay, so filter name what I'm giving is, okay, from the Ubuntu images, HVM SSD, Ubuntu. That means whatever is available in this, it is automatically is going to bring that ID. I don't know that ID, but what I'm doing here, I'm creating a data source block for that AMI. And when I'm using that AMI, in my resource, what I'll pass is, I'll pass the data.aws underscore AMI dot ubuntu dot id I'm passing that id from that region. It is bringing by default based on the filters or values what we have given. Okay, it is automatically bringing that id because I don't know that who, like which id I have in that region. Okay, if you know that AMI id, you can give that. Otherwise, that id also we can get it as, that ID also we can get it as the data source. Okay, because that already that AMI is already existing. But who created that AMI? We didn't create it. Who created? AWS itself has been created. But we want to use that. Then we are importing that as data source. Okay, so what Terraform like providers is providing is for all the resource blocks and for all the providers, it is just providing the configuration details itself. Whenever we want, we just need to use them, and we need to like create that resources, or we can import those resources, or we can use them as the data sources also. Okay, and everything, whatever the resource you want to use. So here we have the Terraform documentation is available, right? From this Terraform documentation, like for every resource, each and every resource in the AWS, for the resource block, for the data source block, what are the IDs we can use, and how to import that resource. Everything is available in the documentation. Okay, so
Sir,
everything is available in
now,
this documentation. 1 second, say suppose here if we want to import that resource, so now here they're giving that command also for every resource, how to import also, they're going to give that command for us. Yeah, please tell me.
yes, sir. Now you have explained us like how to import
Yeah,
AMI
yeah,
ID.
for each, no, no, that is importing, we are not importing that ID, we are using that as a
It's a
data
data.
source.
Yeah. Data source. We are getting that. So the same thing we have variables also, right? In the variable we will specify one ID
No,
there.
no, if you know
We
that
can give the
ID, you
reference.
can specify, but here we don't know that ID.
So any ID that means even it's Ubuntu or Red Hat or anything we can call at that
Yes,
time.
yes. Based on the here that values, filter values, it is going to bring that.
Okay.
So here they given some hard-coded regular expression, right?
Yeah.
So here
Even
this
though
is,
CentOS or
yeah,
anything we can
yes,
call
yes.
here.
That's all. You try to use or you try to get a Windows ID.
Okay.
So here they use the Ubuntu, right? But that filter try to use for the Windows AMI and check whether that is coming or not.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that is also one use case you can tell for the data source block. Okay. So till this, try to finish the lab. Okay. So we have still depends on meta arguments, lifecycle policies. Then we have modules. Those all we'll discuss. So, but in the real time, this importing, okay, data sources, these all very important from the job wise, because every resource we no need to create it. We may need to reuse also those. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts?